metaphor a lot. When you go to the restaurant and you order from the menu, you order from left to right instead of from right to left, you're good. You know what I'm talking about? When you order from right to left, you look at the price. You're like, okay, 24, 34, 82, 116, oh heck no, $80, no, 10.99. I'm gonna have chicken tonight. No, you don't want chicken tonight. You want that ribeye steak. You want that, you want that dish that you want. So you look at the left side of the menu and you order what you want. Don't even look at the right side of the menu on the pricing table, because you don't care about that, right? When you go to the store and you get what you want instead of what you can afford, at the basis, ladies and gentlemen, isn't that what we're all after here? I'm not talking about trying to, going for billions or whatever. I mean, if that's your goal, cool. I think being a billionaire is a great idea. You have to create or solve so many problems for so many people, and then they compensate you with money. Money is not a bad idea, right? And that's the topic of a different conversation. We're going to talk about it. I think it's everybody's duty and obligation to become wealthy. It's your duty and your obligation to make a whole boat of money. And that's that's an official term. Okay, why? Because money is nothing more than a certificate of appreciation. If you think about it, a certificate of appreciation, right? So if if I give you this right here and you give me money, you win, I win, right? If I package information in a certain way that helps you get what you want and you pay me for that, it's a win-win. And if I can solve your problem and you pay me for me solving your problem, did I serve you? Yeah. Is that a good thing to serve other people? Is that a good thing to solve people's problems? Now, there's dark side of money. There's, I'm not talking about that, right? I'm talking about like at the surface level of it. And because a lot of people have this messed up perception about making money. People think, if somebody's making money, they got to be like a bad person or whatever. But if you think in terms of, okay, what are you doing? If it's noble, if it's good, if it serves people, isn't that your responsibility to do that at scale and serve people at scale, yeah? And when you do that, people reward you with a certificate of appreciation we call money. And then you take that money and you give it to somebody else that serves you, right? And money always flows. And we can talk about that. That's a different money mindset, psychology of money conversations. If you guys want to talk about that, we can dig into that. When you understand universal laws that govern money, you will never be broke, ladies and gentlemen. It will be impossible for you to be broke. It will be impossible. Now, temporarily, yeah, sometimes things happen, right? Sometimes we go after a big idea and we put all of our money in this thing, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't work out. But at the end of the day, when you understand the universal law that governs money, money will never be running away from you. You will be like the magnet to money. Okay, so like if somebody takes away your money tomorrow, you can have it all back in a short period of time. It's just how it is, and it's a freaking insanely powerful ability to have that relationship with money, because you don't have to worry about economic situations. You don't have to worry about or be stressed out, because you're not tied to a job, you're not tied to anybody, you're not dependent on anybody. You understand that humans are all essentially the same. We're all connected in some way, right? And it's all about serving. If I can solve somebody's problem here and they pay me for it, it's called economy. I give you this, you give me $1, it's called economy on a micro level. And if I do that at scale, we make the economy go around. Okay? Where was I? Let's get back into this thing. So yeah, the 2004 to 2010, we're in the techno-info entertainment era, and basically packaging of information in a certain way systematically is where the wealth really was shifting to. Okay, now people, like I said, that never made money were breaking through left and right. when they understood how to do that. Okay? Now, keep in mind, even then, the 80-20, this concept, okay, the concept of here, always is present. Why? Because doesn't matter which era, okay, so as we go here, closer to our age, was it easier or harder for people to make money, ladies and gentlemen? Was it easier or harder for people to make money? Tell me real quick. Okay? It was easier. Okay? It was easier. Now, even though it was easier for people to make money, interesting thing is that the 80-20 principle applied in every era. Does that make sense? That's keep that in mind, because people that understood awareness and they could spot eras, okay, it was way easier for them to break through. So let's continue here. Then we go from 2010, okay, 2010 to about 2020. We shifted into another era still. And can anybody tell me what that era was? What happened at about that time? What happened in late 2000s? What happened? Well, we started to have social media, right? We started to have social media really gaining traction and gaining attention. Yeah? So we've got, somebody says crypto. So watch this. We shifted into another era, and that was the era of partnerships, and collaborations, and strategic collaborations. Okay? So what I mean by that is this. Okay? People that had a platform, so platform, and you can say strategic partnership or strategic collab, okay, equaled wealth. Let me explain. Okay? Now, what happened in 2000 and when did iPhone come out? 2007? Okay? 2007. 2007, iPhone comes out. Right? iPhone comes out, great little gadget. People couldn't do much with it. So Apple says this. Apple says, we want to do something that has never been done. Hold on one sec. And Apple, in about 2000, what was that, 2008? Steve Jobs introduces Apple Store, right? And they say this: now you guys can collaborate with us. That has never been done in the history of humankind, where somebody could collaborate with a multi-billion dollar, currently multi-trillion dollar company without really manufacturing anything, right? It's all through digital stuff. So what happened was we started to see strategic partnerships, and this is where big boom started to happen in social following. This is where a lot of influencers started to pop on the surface, right? This is where we started to see this talk about personal brand. How many of you guys remember, right? This personal brand. It's still a big talk today, right now, but watch this. It gets very, very interesting here, okay? So from 2010, about 10 years, to 2020, okay, approximately, there has been a huge boom in people getting themselves on a platform, Facebook, Instagram, right? All these social platforms. And what happened during that era, okay, watch this. Facebook, when did Facebook launch? I don't know, but somewhere in there, bro, 2000 and early 2000s probably, right? They became really, really popular. They really blew up about after 2010. How so? The era of strategic partnerships and strategic collaborations. The era of the influencers, right? The platform era. So people that owned a platform, even though it was on rented land, watch what happened. How many of you guys remember seeing billboards? Okay, hang on one sec. Are we good? We're live, yes? 2004, yeah. Facebook started 2004. Okay, let me know if you guys are with me here. If we're live, yes? Okay, good. So what happened was this: companies used to run advertisements. They would pay a lot of money to buy a billboard on the side of the road, right? And they would advertise their company, and the call to action was follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ their username of the company, their tag, right? Their handle. How many of you guys remember that? AV is good? We're good? Live? Okay, good. Thank you for the feedback. So there was a big boom. So influencers started to really pop on the scene, right? We've got personal brand, people like follow me on social. And then people that build social following during that era, if they would understand how to monetize it by strategic collaborations and partnerships, it was easy for them to make money. All they would have to do is channel attention, okay, to a collaborative partner basically some kind of a promotion or sell something, because you really make money two ways. You make money by either selling a service or selling a product. That's it, initially, right? That's the active income. So we initially make money by either selling a product or a service. And then once you have enough money coming in, then you can have money making babies for you, where you have money working for you through investments and that kind of stuff. That's passive income now. But initially, there's really only two ways to make money. You know, somebody goes to a job, they trade hours for dollars. That's a service type deal, right? They serve the company, they provide service, and then they get paid. Or you can be an entrepreneurial, you can make a product, you can sell that product, and then you make money. That's really the only two ways you can make active income there. Anyway, so these influencers, these people would, collaborate with companies to sell their products, and affiliate marketing became even stronger then in that era. Okay, personal brand. And then we go into, hang on one sec here, let me get to the right screen here so I can get back to my thing here. Then we're getting into our stuff here. Now, what happened? What do you guys suppose happened? What were some of the challenges here in this era? Okay, what were some of the challenges in this era? So platforms and strategic collaborations equaled wealth here. And this is the era, really the first time in human history, ladies and gentlemen, where kids could become millionaires. Let that sink in. Somebody says pandemic. Okay? But I tell you this, pandemic don't matter. Pandemic was whatever it was, right? So watch this. This was the first era in human history where literally kids, 16, 12, 8-year-olds, became millionaires. Never in the history of humankind this ever happened. Through the collaboration of this. Now, then what started to happen is this, is as these platforms started to become bigger, okay, become more powerful. Remember, platform and strategic collaboration. So owners of the platform, Facebook, Instagram, what did they start to do? So the very same people that build the platform, the very same people that advertised on billboards saying, hey, follow us on Facebook, and got paid their money to bring people to Facebook platform, did these people own the platform? No, right? They did not own. But they advertise, they basically build Facebook virally. So Facebook gets super, super big. Okay? Facebook is like, okay, we're going to give you guys these groups, Facebook groups. We're going to give you live stream so you can do live streaming, yeah? And everybody is like, yay, this is great. And then what happened? Facebook said, we're going to change our algorithm, and we're going to tell you what you can and cannot say. As I hear that says, Facebook was growing their platform. Okay? They created a monster. Well, the users of Facebook built Facebook. Why? Because everybody invited their friends. Everybody brought their own community or people and community onto Facebook platform. And then Facebook said, we're going to dictate what you can and cannot say. And then we started to see, not too long ago, right? A few years now. Then we started to see things like censorship. Then we started to see things like people losing their accounts. Then we started to hear about horror stories of people building their following on Facebook, dedicating a decade or 2 decades of their life, building up a community or a following on Facebook, and then wake up in the morning to see their account being completely wiped out. How many of you guys have heard stories like that or have seen stories like that? Even from these massive giant influencers. And not only Facebook, but that started to happen on Instagram. That started to happen on YouTube. That started to happen on every single social platform. Okay? Things started to shift. And so a lot of these people are like, oh, wow, what just happened? So then, let me go back here. From about 2020, okay, watch this. From about 2020, okay, to, I would say, current, okay, what do you guys see happening right now? What do you guys see is happening right now? Okay, there is a massive shift that started to happen right now, and just like in all these previous eras here, just like kids could make millions in this era, okay, some of them lost their account, some of them are scrambling. And by the way, what started to happen here is a lot of these influencers started to do what? They're like, oh no, we don't control this thing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our main free platform, okay, and we're gonna get attention there, and then we're gonna start to channel some of our followers into a private community, right? You guys notice that? So people started to channel their audience into like Patreon, and they're like, how can I monetize? If I have Facebook slap, if I do, if I've got YouTube slap, if they throttle me, how many of you guys have a following on social media? Like legit, who here has a following on social media? Let me look at your comments right now real quick. Who here has a following on social media, yeah? Do you all remember in early 2010s, right? Late 2000s, early 2010, when if you had 1,000 followers on Facebook, and you would post something, pretty much 90% of your people would see your post, yeah? What happens when you post something on social right now? What percentage of your people will see that post? 1? 0? 2%? Yeah, maybe between 1 and maybe 2%, maybe 3%, okay, of people will see your post. So right now, there is a massive shift that already started to happen. And just like with every shift in the history of humankind, some people, when they have the awareness, when they see what's happening, and they can adjust, they can reposition, right? They can strategically position themselves where it's going to rain money. Okay, it's like 10 times, 100 times easier for these guys to start making real wealth, start making real money, creating breakthroughs, much easier than those that are not aware of these things. Make sense? So watch what happens. Let's go back here. So what happens here is about 2020, this started to happen. Okay, we went into yet another era, and I would call it a private community era. Okay, so private community era is very, very interesting. Now, these guys that were building their following on the on all these massive social medias platforms, they started to realize that, hey, my reach is no longer serves me. It becomes pretty irrelevant, right? So now I'm going to start channeling those people to a private community. Somebody says Telegram. How many of you guys see people from social media channeling people into Telegram groups? Yeah? How many of you guys see people channeling people into WhatsApp groups? A lot of these influencers here, they're like, hey, join my private group on WhatsApp, on Telegram, etc., 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 on Patreon, right? And then you got this. So basically, where the wealth is now hiding at is private, okay, platform equals wealth. All right? So no longer do you need 100,000 followers for you to be wealthy, like before. You can't reach them. No point. There is absolutely no point for you or for anybody to be getting tons and tons and tons of followers on social. It's not the same no more, and it's going down, right? It becomes more noisy by the day. Smart entrepreneurs or smart creators, right, started to channel people, and they understand, hey, I would much rather have 1,000 members of my community in a private environment than to have 100,000 people out there on some social public network. You guys understand what I'm saying here? Paul is saying too many platforms. How many of you guys have seen, okay, that there were companies that started to pop on the surface, such as Circle.so? They have been around for a while. This is a private community platform, right? And a lot of these influencers, the Gary V's of the world, that was like, you gotta post 50 million times a day on every single platform, blah, 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 until you blue in the face, and then hire a team to do it for you and all that. Basically, no sleep, just post, 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 and sell your soul to the content machine of the social media, right? What did Gary do? Gary's like, ooh, I can't freaking reach my people on social media no more. So I'm going to go to community platform where I'm going to build my own, text messaging community. All right? You got Circle.so, you got School.com. How many of you guys have heard of School.com? Yeah? A platform popped up. You've got WAP, right? And these influencers that were like personal brand. Watch this. What happens now is these guys are now starting to create their own little platform, right? That they control, which is more private, right? And then other people can create a community on that platform. Okay? Now, can you guys tell me what is good and what is not so good about this? This is a brand new trend, right? So this is a brand new trend. I'm actually curious, how many of you guys have the awareness when you see this happening based on the historical data here, based on the historical data, at least from like 2004, from here to current, okay? What do you suppose is going to happen to the private platforms? Right now, this is a shift that's happening. Okay? Paul says still not in control, right? Okay? Here is what's happening. Bet for building someone else's platform. All right? Here is what's happening. Watch this. Let me look at you. So what's going on is this. Is people are shifting from a big social media giant platform to more of a private platform, which is better, right? However, when it comes to making money, this is where I'm circling back. I'm going to give you guys $1 million strategy here. Who's ready for $1 million strategy? Who's ready for that? Okay, because we're about to blow the roof of what's happening here in the industry right now. We are entering into a new era called the private community era, but there is a twist. There is a little deception going on that nobody is seeing. Well, some people are seeing, but most people are not seeing because they're just following the blind like sheep, right? And so on the surface, everything is cool because it's a new concept, just like back in the day, everything is cool. Let me walk you through this concept right here, okay? When you have a private platform, okay? So when you have a private so right now, basically private platform, a lot of people are making money. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, right? Right now, if you start building a private community on a platform or in a group that you control, you will make more money than if you were to focus all of your attention on social media. Now, I'm not saying to ban social media forever. Personally, I have not been on social media for a very, very long time, okay? I did not really care for it that much. What social media is good for is just to get attention. And then as soon as you got somebody's attention, channel them into your private platform, into your private group, okay? Now, then what do you do there, okay? The way you make money, remember, is doing two things. Only two ways you make money. You either sell a product or you sell a service. The product can be yours or somebody else's. The service can be yours or somebody else's. Now, it gets a little bit tricky, and most people don't see this. Let me take you on another quick history lesson of marketing, okay? And let me show you another timeline here. And this is going to be for entrepreneurs, okay? So this is for entrepreneurs. We had, well, there's another timeline. Okay. So in the early days, where the distribution, this started here, okay? This started about, where was the distribution? This was right here, okay? Distribution, outlets, okay? The era of distribution, 1950s, okay? This thing started, watch this, we're gonna do a parallel. So there was, people were making money, a lot of it, through direct mail, okay? So there was an era of direct mail. It started from the distribution right here. Boom, okay? Then, watch this, ladies and gentlemen. We went from that era, okay, to, from direct mail, then we went into a website era. Okay? And a website era was basically like, hey, these guys are like, okay, it's getting a lot more expensive to send snail mail, all right? There is this concept of a website, and we're gonna do website. We're gonna build a website, and it's gonna be digital, and our store, and people can just go to our website and they can buy, and that was revolutionary, wasn't it? Right? Everybody wanted to have a website. So there was a website era for selling, for getting their products out, right? Then, from the website era, who can tell me what replaced traditional websites? And they were great in the time, right? Because I can go to somebody's website and I can see all their million products or whatever, right? And I can read a whole bunch of stuff. And then there comes this concept right? Created by a company called ClickFunnels. Great company. We used them before, right? And it's a good company called ClickFunnels. And they said what? They said websites are dead, right? And they have introduced a new concept called funnels. Okay? Funnels. So funnels basically lasted for about 10 years. Okay, the title of today's meeting, the first meeting here today, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in my, as far as I remember, I started online in 2005, right, as I told you. Up until just recently here, okay, funnels built entrepreneurs. So funnels was the big concept, because funnels were, social media was working with, it was okay, for you to advertise funnels. You did not really have to have a home base. You did not have to have anything beyond the funnel, right? So funnels was going on for over 10 years now. Now watch this. As social media, these big platforms started to get more traction, right? Started to get bigger. They started to change the algorithms. They started to look, and again, because of all these influencers here, right? It's all connected. Because of all these influencers here, all these kids, okay, and anybody could spin up a funnel very, very easily, okay, and then started selling whatever in the world they wanted, good or bad or anything in between. A lot of these companies now started to throttle businesses in terms of how they are being structured. Now, if you are smart, that I know that you are, you're going to listen to me very, very closely, because what I'm about to tell you, it will shift the way you do business moving forward forever. Watch this. A concept of a funnel is a great concept to make immediate sale fast, right? What is a funnel? A funnel is nothing more than a sequence of pages structured or presented in a certain way, in a certain order, to engineer a particular outcome. It can be an opt-in, can be a sale, an upsell, etc. And then the end. That's basically it. Okay? Basically, engineer a transaction. You guys tracking? So that's basically a funnel. Now, is funnel a business? Somebody tell me. Is sales funnel a business? I'm looking at your comments. Is sales funnel a business? If you said no, you would be right. A sales funnel is not a business. A sales funnel is nothing more than a path to a business, right? Think of it as a gateway. Think of it as a door to a business. Now, what happened is this. When everybody got a hold of a sales funnel, right, and they started to spam their sales funnels all over, Facebook, Google, all these giants said this: we don't want to work. We will not be favorable to people peddling just transactional business. So they started to punish people that don't have a real business. They started to punish people in terms of higher ad costs, higher traffic, costs to be able to do paid ads. They started to throttle people that were just promoting on their social following, to their social media following, just a website that has no business behind it, right? And so these companies, social media companies and platforms, said this: we would much rather work with businesses, real businesses, than solo, independent, fly-by-night entrepreneurs or marketers. You guys understand what I'm saying? And so what started to happen is the concept of a funnel, okay, is it became more expensive to acquire a customer. When you acquire a customer through a funnel, where do you put it? Where do you put the customer? Where do you send the customer? Where do you deliver the product? So here's what started to happen. Funnel people, right? The people that are funnel owners, funnel marketers.